Forget everything you know about the traditional pirate fantasy. Skull and Bones is taking a darker, grittier approach with our new game direction. We wanted to reimagine what pirates were really like.
Yes, guys, when I hear that word reimagining, I just know that any historical accuracies that actually took place back in the day are going in the trash can, and 2022 ethics are going to be imposed on that game. The fact that the game was set hundreds of years ago is irrelevant. They're going to use 2022 standards and put it on that game. I mean, I don't agree with the ethics of a lot of the history of my country, but it still happened. And when you're playing a game that you want immersion, you should have the history of what it was back then. And the hard truth is, women weren't allowed on pirate ships. There was a pirate code that every pirate had to sign, and they just did not want women on the ship. And because pirates were highly superstitious, I mean, they didn't like fucking albatrosses or women. I mean, obviously, I don't mean they didn't have sex with albatrosses that they did with women, but not on the ship because women were. I'm tying myself up. What I'm trying to say is that the pirate code was that women weren't allowed on ships because they were bad luck. Simple as that. Now, I'm not for 1 second saying there was no women pirates. There were. There was Bonnie was a very notorious pirate back in the day, but at the end of the day, they were dressed up as lads from the age of 6 or 7 because women had hardly any rights back then compared to men, and so the parents dressed them up as boys and then dressed them up as men, and they snuck on ships as pretending to be men, not like they're portrayed in this game in bikinis. They look like fucking Vikings in this game for some insane reason, but there was hardly any compared to how many there were for male, and they've got the proportions way off in this game, and it ruins immersion. I mean, everything else looks pretty decent, the way they've got it set in the history, because this was in that area of the world. So, you know, you would get a lot of people coming on board, a lot from totally different cultures, which is fine. That's historically accurate. That happened because there was very little prejudice on pirate ships of the day. I mean, they were just interested in loyalty and hard work. They didn't give a where you came from or what your skin colour was. It was like, you work hard, you're going to take a share of the plunder, and you can work your way up in the ranks, because they did. I mean, Blackbeard himself, which was one of the big pirates of the day, his number 2 worked his way up from, I think, it was from a completely different culture to the English, and he worked his way up because there was no prejudice back in the day on the pirate ships. There was plenty on the land, but not so much on the ships. But the one thing they didn't have, and that's the ship decks weren't full of women screaming and hollering. It was all, ha ha, shiver me timbers, go f*** yourself. It wasn't, fight a broadside, wah! That aside though, guys, the combat, it just looks, it looks poor. And the way the game's set up is even worse, because as much as it's co-op, single player and PvP, you can't have a few crewmates on the same ship. So if you're playing with, say, 2 of your mates, they'll have separate ships to you, and you go out and you do missions, and there's no swashbuckling. So when you do a grapple, so you grapple another ship and you're pulling them in, and you expect to dive onto their deck, which is so much fun in the likes of Black Wake and even in Sea of Awfulness, which is probably good now, and I haven't revisited it for a while, so don't cry. I will go back to that. But in this, you get a cutscene. You get a cutscene. It's awful. When you go on land, like if you want to get resources, like I'm not talking about docking somewhere. Let's say you want to plunder something. You get a progress bar. Nobody jumps off the ship and actually fights and plunders. Nah, none of that. That would be like, you know, proper. That would be a proper game. We don't do that anymore in AAA. So we just give you this bar. There's a progress bar. That'll do. The only time you can actually run around off your ship, from what I've seen and what I've heard, is at the designated ports where you actually speak to merchants, get your quests or your missions, and your crew members and all of that stuff. So you'll have a little port, and then you bugger off on your ship again, and it's all back to progress bars and shit like that. And the combat doesn't even look great, to be honest. In fact, Sea of Thieves looks better than this, and that didn't really like Sea of Thieves. Black Wake, definitely better than this. So what are you actually paying for? Well, you can customize your own ship. You progress from being a lowly little pirate on a tiny little raft kind of thing, all the way up to having a lot of ships, I guess, and big, better ships, and you can customize them with different armaments, different defenses. And of course, different sails and flags and colours. Because, guys, I wager my right fucking testicle. I would never bet me testicles on anything. I wager one of your testicles that when this game releases, there's a big fucking shop where you can buy all manner of pink boats and all of this stuff and pirate flags and different colours and decals and all of that stuff. Because, guys, that's what this game seems to be centered around. It all seems to be centered around PvP and look at my ship and look at my outfit, look at my hat, look at my coat and my boots and my gloves and look at this little fucking pistol that I'm waving around and this fucking sword and look at me flags and all of that. Yours for only lots of money. Now I'm cynical. It's never failed me, guys. It's good to be cynical because then when good shit happens, you get a nice surprise. But in this case, I'm going to call this now. That's what I think you're going to get. You're going to get a hollow, shallow fucking game with a shit ton of stuff you can buy with your moolah. You know, that's what I think you're going to get. Because this game has changed so much since I first saw what it was going to be. I don't think they know what they wanted to make, and they've kind of just settled for that'll fucking do. A bit of PvP, a bit of an island, there's some fucking quests, lots of stuff to buy, let's fucking do it. So there you go, guys. It looks like an unhistoric, laughable, unimmersive joke of a pirate game. Fucking hell.